So for design and build quality, it's solid. Nothing mind-blowing, but solid. You've got some carbon fiber accents that give it a bit of a gamery flair, though the overall construction is mostly plastic. So yeah, it doesn't really scream premium. That said, for the price, it's totally fair. The stand is actually really nice. It's easy to set up, it's height adjustable, and it even rotates into portrait mode if you want that set up. The only downside is that it doesn't swivel, but the base doesn't take up too much desk space, so overall I'd say that's a win. But let's talk about what actually matters, the display. This is the first 25-inch 1440p monitor that I've used, and that's what I think makes this monitor so unique. Most 1440p panels are 27 inches, but at 25, you get a higher pixel density, meaning sharper, cleaner visuals. It's not quite 4K crisp, but it's noticeably sharper than your standard 27-inch 1440p setup. As for the mini LED performance, I'd call it above average for this price range. The fact that you can even get mini LED at this price point is just insane to begin with. So there's a little bit of blooming that you'll see around bright objects. It's nothing crazy, but you can definitely see that it's there. Another heads up though, out of the box, it's pretty dim, like weirdly dim. You'll definitely want to switch it over to some of the different modes. You know, the ones that I was using was I believe the local dimming mode, which brightens it up a bit and makes it more usable for just everyday usage. But for gaming performance, this monitor really surprised me. There's no ghosting, it's smooth motion, low input lag. It feels pretty snappy. I was honestly a little skeptical that you'd get a true 240 hertz experience for under $300, but this thing delivers. I tested it across a bunch of games. Shooters, I ran it in ULL mode for that ultra low latency feel. For RPGs and cinematic games like Dead Space, I switched to LD MPCS mode, which gives you a little bit better contrast and a more immersive look. It also gets rid of some of that blooming because it's not quite maxed out on brightness. Whereas the ULL mode, it's really designed more for FPS games, so it'll brighten up those dim areas, which is what you want in games like those. So my recommendation is go LD mode if you want that mini LED pop, and then ULL mode if you're all about, you know, high-speed FPS games. And you can switch between those. Overall, I think this is a step up from a standard LCD backlighting, but it's not at OLED levels. But for this price point, I think it's seriously impressive. Color-wise, it looks great right out of the box. I can't measure accuracy, but from a real-world perspective, the skin tones look natural, and all the colors are balanced. Nothing's oversaturated or off, at least to the naked eye. It does have an sRGB mode, which is nice if you're doing some editing or creative work. However, I wouldn't rely on it for color-critical projects, but if you're a gamer who dabbles into photo or video work, it's totally capable. So for connectivity and features, connectivity-wise, it's got what you'd expect in 2025 from a value-focused monitor. It has two HDMI 2.1 ports, which luckily in 2025 and going into 2026, I think has to be the standard for HDMI, and one DisplayPort 1.4 port. So it's not got the latest for DisplayPort, but DisplayPort 1.4 can easily power a 240 hertz mini LED 1440p monitor, so there's no issues with that. It's plenty for a PC or console and maybe a backup system, but there's no USB-C, which would have been a nice touch, but again, at this price point, I can't really complain. But here's what I think INNOCN can improve. First off, the menu system, you know, it's not great. It works, but it's clunky and not intuitive. Honestly, every company should just copy LG's UI at this point. It's clean, simple, easy to use, and it just works. And second, some of the picture modes are just way too dim. As I mentioned before, some of them are just completely unusable. I'd rather have a few bright usable modes than 10 half-baked ones. And that's something that they could probably fix with a firmware update, But yeah, the brightness, it definitely needs work. So would I recommend this? Honestly, yeah, at 269 bucks, I think that it's a pretty good deal. There's finally some legit competition at the $250 to $300 range, and I love seeing that. A few years ago, 240 hertz was a premium gamer thing, and now you can get it without emptying your wallet. If you're looking for a high refresh 1440p monitor with mini LED backlighting, solid sharpness, and a surprisingly smooth experience, all for under 300 bucks, the INNOCN 25 M2S is definitely worth a look. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.